laughs at to somebody who's managed to broker these pretty punitive sanctions. It's impressive. Anyway, I think 7:03. We can probably start. What do we've got 24 people already. So this is the March meeting, and at the March meeting we have the annual election. Rob Resnick is our parliamentarian, and I'm going to let him run through this.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. So for those who were at the January meeting or have been a member for many years, you know what we're doing, and that is in January, the nominating committee announced an initial slate for people to think about and for people to consider whether to make other nominations. And so what I'm going to do in a moment is I'll announce what that slate from the nominating committee is, and then open up the floor for any nominations for anybody in attendance here tonight. If you'd like to nominate yourself or somebody else in attendance for one of these positions. If there are other nominations, then we'll have a discussion and vote. If there are not additional nominations, then we'll vote on the slate as a whole. And so we'll have to determine if we do one vote or multiple votes based on whether there's any additional information. The slate as proposed by the nominating committee would be for President Michael Cantwell, for Vice President Charlene, for Treasurer David Kulik, for Secretary Cheryl Perry, and for Parliamentarian Bob Averak. And so that is the slate that the nominating committee has decided upon to propose to this group for a vote. But before we do that, it would now be the time for me to open up if there's anybody else here that would like to provide any additional nominations for any of those 5 positions. I do not see any other nominations. Is that correct?
You're all on mute. Kidding.
Well, I don't see any hands being raised or anything else.
Dave.
All right, then all it takes is one vote, but let's do it officially. All those in favor of the slate, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Didn't think so. All right, the slate is approved, and the 5 people named have now been elected for a 2-year term.
Wait,
You, Rob.
Congratulations.
oh, thank you.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go sure.
We do have a quorum as far as 14 out of 27 members, so we do have one tonight.
Oh, if everyone's a member, but
Oh, I said I counted the members versus non-members here.
good for you. Okay. Okay. So next up, we have at 7:25, 7:30, Angela Burns, who's our featured speaker / guest tonight. She's in a meeting, and the more time we can give her until 7:30, the happier she's going to be. So Arlene is going to talk about some of the voting changes, but first, Phil Cerruti, who is our fearless zone leader in Zone 8, which is Delray Beach, 40 precincts, I think. And we all need help getting precinct leaders in place to get the vote out in the midterm. So Phil, take it away.
Thank you for inviting me tonight, Michael. My name is Philip Cerruti, and I am the co-zone leader of Zone 8, which encompasses the incorporated city of Delray Beach, plus Gulfstream and a tiny little bit of East Boynton. And my co-zone leader is Meryl Schatzman. One of the things that Michael had asked me to talk about was the Precinct Leader program. If you go to our party website, which is pbcdemocraticparty.org, there is a tab with a drop down on how to get involved. And one of the things is the Precinct Leader program. As Michael said, that we have about 40 precincts in Zone 8, some of which are not yet covered by anyone. So we are always looking for precinct leaders that want to be active in the party, that want to put in some time to try to get out the vote. And it comes out, I think, the Precinct Leader program, there's a tutorial, like you want to be a precinct leader, learn more. It's maybe 5 to 10 hours a month on average. It's during campaign seasons. It gets more intense then because we're having more events, and there's more activity going on the closer we get to election day. But basically, with the Precinct Leader program, being a precinct leader, we are into voter maintenance. That is, we're not part of a campaign. If you want to, if there are people running for various offices, whether it be local, county, state, federal, you can devote whatever time you want to those candidates to be involved in a campaign. As precinct leaders or as a zone leader, we don't normally get involved in campaigns, at least up until the primary. Because in primaries, we're not supposed to endorse one Democrat above another Democrat. That's just not what we do. So, I mean, once the primary season is over, then yes, we will endorse the winning candidates, and we will throw all of our efforts behind their campaign. But in the meantime, most of our efforts involve voter maintenance. And if you become a precinct leader, you would be given access to our Voter Activation Network program, which is called VAN for short. And that is the database of all of our voters. And you would have access to the voters in your precinct. And again, the purpose of what we do is what we call voter maintenance. We make sure that everyone in our precinct has their voter registration up to date, that nobody's going to get arbitrarily thrown off of the voter rolls for whatever reason that Ron DeSantis can think of, which is many in our case, since we're Democrats. The other thing that we do is we're always trying to register new voters, especially if there are voters, if there's a voter in your precinct, you can actually click onto that address and you can see if there are any other Democrats within that household. If you reach out to that household, there may be a new Democrat that's not registered yet. It could be a teenager who just turned 18, or someone who just got married and their spouse moved here, or another family member who moved back home who may be registered in another location but is not registered where they live. So that becomes very, very important. The other thing that we do is vote by mail. We're very big on pushing vote by mail, especially now with the new laws that have been passed that are designed to suppress vote by mail. Right now, anyone who is currently getting a vote by mail, it should be good for the rest of this year. Prior to the changes in the law, when you sign up to vote by mail, it would be good for 2 election cycles or a maximum of 4 years. Now you have to re-up, except for the people that are grandfathered in for this year, for 2022. After this, you have to re-up for vote by mail every year. Unless, of course, Mark Elias is successful with his lawsuits and most of this heinous voter suppression law is knocked out by the courts. We can't assume that he's going to be successful. So right now we have to work under the rules as they currently exist. So one of the things that, again, that they're very big on is vote by mail. And I just signed up for Senator Chevron Jones. He has his new organization, which is called Blackout, which is to try to increase the African-American turnout in our elections. And he wants to do that by signing as many people up in those communities to vote by mail as he possibly can. It's a new organization. They don't have any events yet scheduled for down here in Palm Beach County. I did sign up to get all of the announcements, notifications. And so when they do start doing events, we will coordinate with them and, obviously piggyback on whatever they're doing. It's important that we reach out to our minority communities to make sure that they're A, registered to vote, and B, to vote by mail. And I know traditionally there's been some pushback in the African-American communities on using vote by mail. And the way we've been trying to overcome that is to tell them that it's just an insurance policy. They can always go to the polls. They always feel like they want to go to the polls, whether it be on election day or during early voting. So our pitch to them is that they'll get the actual ballot 6 weeks before the election. So it gives them plenty of time to look at the ballot, especially if there's ballot questions. If they're not certain about something, they can always call our offices, ask any questions they have about the ballot. And then we tell them, you can fill it out at home, and you can bring it to an early voting site and you can deposit it there. I think they still allow that. So that's a big thing in order to get turnout. I don't know if you saw the news item today about the census. Apparently, they have figured out that there's somewhere in the nationwide, I don't know what the breakdown is for Florida, but somewhere in the nationwide, some 19 million minorities were undercounted in the census. 19 million. So, places that got extra seats probably shouldn't have gotten them, and places that didn't get extra seats or lost seats should have gotten them. So that's, it's going to play hell with the redistricting. It's going to play hell with, voter registration, turnout, the voter rolls, etc. Okay, redistricting. Again, they haven't decided on a final map for Florida yet. So we don't quite have our new districts in. I don't think South Florida is going to change that much, even on the most heinous Ron DeSantis drawn map. But who knows until the final map is voted on, signed into law, and then Mark Elias will turn around and immediately sue to have it thrown out in court because it violates our constitutional amendment for fair election districts. So that also will not only do like the state legislative and Senate districts and the congressional districts get redrawn, but also on the county level, they get redrawn, and also the precincts get redrawn. Because again, the precincts have to be more or less equal in population. So we could have a precinct leader that's already assigned to a precinct, and then he or she may either gain or lose neighborhoods, depending on how the redistricting goes. And, they're going to have to get that done soon because, the final maps have to be drawn and people need some certainty as to even politicians. If they're running for office, they need to know what what districts they're running in. So that could be a problem for them. You know, you think you live in one district and then it gets redrawn and you don't live in that district anymore. So those are the things that we are concerned with as precinct leaders. One of the other things that Michael also asked me to talk about this evening is the new South County Democratic Party office. We for a long time we were over and at the Kings Point Center over at Jog and Atlantic, and you know, we lost that space. I don't think personally, I don't think of it as much of a loss because
no one's missing it.
no, it was kind of shabby, shall we say. It took us several months, but we finally lined up new office space, and I want to give everybody the address. It's now part of the city of Delray proper. It is now, it's 220 Congress Park Drive, Suite 140. And that's right off of Congress Avenue. Basically, if you're at the corner of Congress and Atlantic, you would go south on Congress, and it's the big office complex that's on your right-hand side as soon as you pass that little strip mall that's on the corner. I think that's a Walgreens or something there.
Yeah.
So again, it's nice office space. It's about 1,950 square feet. There's a big central office. We just recently, when we took over the space, we had a big closet space built to hold all of our tables and chairs and printers and faxes and computer hardware and office supplies and paper and everything else that we will need there. Right now, we have a little bit of a problem because the HVAC system is not working, and the landlord at their own expense has to put in a new system. So that's going to be a few days. We're counting on it being done by our first event there, which will be on the 19th of March, which is a voter registration training event. Okay, again, the address 220 Congress Park Drive it's actually across the street from the supervisor of elections office, you know, so that you have some kind of a idea of like where it's actually located. If you cross the street, you'd go to the SOE's office. That's the landmark. So again, the 19th is the first event that we're going to be having there. It's a voter registration event. You can go to our website and sign up for it. And also, I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know Michael has somebody else that's lined up to speak. But the one thing that we're getting back to vote by mail, one of the things that we're doing now is, and this is on a county-wide basis, is that we're calling Democrats whose VBM has expired. And we're reminding them that they can go online or call the SOE's office and get that vote by mail renewed. That's a really easy ask. It's a really easy phone call to make. You get a lot of good responses for that. You're not imposing on anyone's time. You're not asking them to vote for a particular candidate. You're just asking them to renew their vote by mail, which they've been using anyway. So you can sign up for that. You can go to Mobilize. Let me just give you the.
Yeah, we'll send the link around afterwards. But
Yeah, it's mobilize.us/PBC Democratic Party. So if you
and that's a phone bank, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a virtual phone bank that you can sign up for. You can do it from the comfort of your own home, and you know, it's it's easy to set up. There's a virtual training that's in there. If anyone's not familiar with virtual phone banks. And again, it's a very easy ask. You know, people are actually grateful because they don't know that their VBM has expired and they think that they're still eligible to vote by mail and they're not. So, and it's a very quick and simple way for them to get back on the VBM rolls.
Are the people that are unaware that they no longer have their VBMs, those would have to be people that signed up in 2018, right? Because anyone who signed up in 2020 is going to be grandfathered.
Right, yeah, that's why like I said at the beginning, anyone who has a VBM already, like you voted in the last election, you had an active VBM, you'll have one for this year too.
Even if
you signed up for the last election.
Right.
For 2020, you will still have it for 2022, but you won't have it beyond that.
Okay.
And then thereafter, they're only good for a couple of years and you would have to sign up again.
Right, even if you check the box that said, I want to continue VBM.
Yeah, because I don't think they're gonna have that checkbox anymore on the.
No, they won't.
But we did.
On the new envelopes, which,
No, the checkbox
From
will
what I-
not be there.
yeah, from what I understand, the new envelope process too is gonna look like Russian nesting dolls where you have to put,
Right.
you know, like 4 different envelopes where you have an identity envelope and a certification envelope and a voting envelope. And you have to make sure you have all of them in together and you have to put on the number that you signed up for. If you signed up to vote by mail using the last 4 digits of your social, you got to use that. If you signed up using your driver's license number, you have to use that. And if you don't remember and you put the wrong one on, it's going to get bounced, just like they did in Texas. You know, they had less than a 1% bounce rate on VBMs prior to this year. They put in a voter suppression law, just like Florida just passed. And in this past primary, something like a third of all ballots ballot requests were rejected in Texas because people couldn't remember which number they signed up with. So, yes, Arlene, you
Well,
want to say something?
Phil,
you
there
finished,
was
Phil?
a question in the chat. Oh,
Oh, I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
sir.
I missed it. What is it?
Linda Jackson asked if any reasons were given for the undercounts of minorities in the latest census. It's sort of shocked. I'm shocked there's gambling going on in the.
Yeah, I mean, it was the Trump administration and
Right.
that nitwit that was in charge of commerce. What was, I forget his name.
Wilbur, not Mills, Wilbur
No.
something.
Yeah.
The only person that's more crooked than Trump,
Yeah.
and a bigger
No,
grifter.
can't be. That's not
So
possible.
that was the reason for the undercount, obviously.
Shar, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know, this is the greatest time, Phil, but I had people ask me, we have a number of people in here that are retired and make calls for us.
Yeah,
And they're always asking, is there a way to make the calls and not use their own phone? And I don't remember from last time. You know, so their
That
phone
I-
number isn't displayed.
I mean, there's a way to block your own phone number when you call.
So they'd have to, like the star 70 or 60.
Yeah, star 70 or star 72,
Yeah,
whatever it
okay.
is. Yeah. I
Star
mean,
69.
And chances are somebody has a call from something that says blocked, they're not going to answer. You know,
That's
a lot of
right.
people won't answer anyway.
Right. Or again, as this person pointed out, you can use a Google Voice number. So,
That's what I was going to ask about, but I don't know enough about Google Voice, so.
yeah. No, nor do I. Sorry.
That's okay, I'll look up.
And I think was there one other question? I thought I saw Dave Torgerson had a.
Yeah.
I can't see the chat questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dave asked if a third of the VBM ballots were rejected, why are we pushing them?
Well,
It wasn't Palm Beach County, was it?
Yes.
I mean, things are pretty good in Palm Beach County, but again, the county SOE here has to follow the law. the state law. So, she's not going to have a whole lot of choice in the matter. However, again, if we get more people to sign up to vote by mail, whether it be they can call on the phone, they can go online and do it. I think the ones in Texas does not have an online voter registration system. So these people were all doing it, pen and paper. So a lot of them were getting rejected that way. Since Florida, you can do stuff online, I'm sure it's going to be easier. Now, the problem we're going to run into is when we start canvassing. Because if we're canvassing, like Arlene or Michael would remember with pre-filled VBMs, we have to leave a space on there now for people to put in the last four of their social, the driver's license number. I guess good practice would be to put both down if you can't remember which one you used when you first registered to vote. So, but
Wendy Link.
Again, it makes it more difficult because then now somebody has to fish out their wallet and look at their driver's license number.
On the form, right, they're asking that you put both so that you don't run into the situation where it would be
rejected.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other night, Arlene, you were on the Boynton Beach and Shore 2 meeting where Wendy Link was saying that you could call up, I think, and find out, which, that's an extra act, but.
Well, I assume on the call, you could just ask to be put on for vote by mail like they've done before. I don't think they changed that part of it.
No, but checking your existing, because I have no idea when I first signed up whether I used the last four of my social or the driver's license.
All right. When I registered to vote, I actually did it at the motor vehicles because I just moved to Florida.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what they may have used.
Right.
So,
Sienna has in the chat, everyone, if you want to take a look at a couple of links for setting up a Google Voice number, which I guess would be a way of avoiding having your telephone number exposed.
I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that.
somewhere.
You can't say that the chat buttons. Not are you? Maybe you're on your cell.
I don't see it on here.
At the bottom.
Here we go. Wait a second.
Send it again.
Survive, can you line the count happens? Yeah. Well, I see Linda's, unfortunately, there isn't anything we can do about it now. The census is only taken once every 10 years.
We'll have to wait
Years,
another
right.
decade.
The only thing they do on an annual basis is they do oh God, what's the term that they use? Like administrative adjustments. They try to do on an annual basis, but again, I don't know how effective that is. So, okay. Well, if there are no
All right.
other questions, or
Well, thank you, Phil. That
my
was
pleasure.
really very helpful. Let me add that it's not a. I was kind of nervous when I became a precinct leader at first. You don't. Especially if you're in a community outside your own. Shar and I and David, my cousin Dave Kulik, who just waved up there, have responsibility both for the precinct we live in and then one across the street from us. And it really, you get to know your neighbors, and it's a good feeling. interacting with them, knowing that, as Phil said before about the vote by mail, I was never a big fan of it in terms of it was a tool. And I knew, as he said, in the African-American community, people were hesitant about it. And I sort of had an epiphany when the pandemic struck. And I told people, look, we don't know what's going to happen in November. We don't know what Trump is going to do to people waiting online, and this is just insurance. You can, you don't have to use it. And the question about, I think Dave Torgerson had about ballots, mail-in ballots getting bounced or rejected. There is a way to monitor it. And when I found somebody, I would regularly check when people said, oh, I mailed it back. And then I would go and I would check, and usually they did, and they were accepted. One time I found it was rejected, and I called the person up. He had no idea, and I sent him a link to get an affidavit that he needed to sign, and he went and did it and brought it over to the SOE, and he texted me later to say that it was accepted. So. We can check on that.
Right, you can check it online.
Yeah, exactly. So,
You just need a name and a date of birth.
right. So,
Okay. Yeah,
let's
I
see.
have to jump out, so.
Yeah, you got a dash.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Phil. We're
Oh,
gonna,
it's my pleasure.
we'll
Thanks for
move
having me. I
on.
appreciate it.
you.
And again, if anyone's interested in becoming a precinct leader, you can get more information online. You can sign up online, and we'll be sure to reach out to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again. Arlene, you're up next, except first, we have two candidates on the line. Unfortunately, Karina just disappeared for a minute. She said that she's going between calls, so we'll catch her later. But Hassan, you want to just say hello and tell everyone where you're running?
Yep. Thank you for having me. My name is Hassan Jahangir. I'm running for Florida House. Again, like Phil says, the district is changing. So right now I think I'm the only one in District 92 that goes from Hyploxo in north, south is all the way to the Hillsborough Canal. On the east is the military trail, west is all the way to the 441. But there is a cut in between on Yamato and Lions Road. The whole thing is messed up. And I want to thank everyone that's all that you do to help our democracy in our state. And Phil, I have some number. That's in Palm Beach County, we lost 36,000 BBM as of right now. So far, we found 4,000 of them, and we re-signed them again. And we are looking at the ban and everything. See everybody, if you see anybody who needs the help, I'm working with the AFDP beside my campaign and everything, so we can make more border. Last month, Bangladesh American Democratic Club, we made about 125 new registered border in Palm Beach County. They're all Democrat.
Good.
Thank you for
Right.
having me.
Sure. And Sienna, I didn't call you out. I'm sorry. And Arlene, Angela has logged in. So after Sienna talks, I think maybe we'll jump to her.
Okay, sounds good.
Go.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Sienna Asta, and I am running for state representative for District 87, which sounds weird to say. I'm still getting used to it, but with the new maps that have come out, let's see, and I can share these with you if you don't have them, but this is what the new 87 and 88 look like. I don't know if that's super visible. I color coded them. So orange is 88, green is 87. Since I live in downtown West Palm, technically I live in 87. It now includes all the way up to Juno Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, North Palm Beach, a little bit of Riviera Beach, and then West Palm, all the way down to Lake Worth, Lantana, and it looks like it has a bit of Boynton there. So, and it includes the Palm Beach Island. So as of right now, I'm the only Democrat in this race. And I imagine, what's his name, Mike Caruso will probably try to run because it's the Palm Beach Island, you know, is now incorporated with the district. So it'll be an interesting election.
What's the mix, Democrat, Republican in that new district? Do you know?
Like percentage wise, it's
Yeah.
still really heavy Democrat, except for the island is majority Republican. But
well, it'd be very nice to see Mike Caruso given the boot.
Yeah.
I think he's in 89. Sienna, I
complete
think he's
hypocrite.
at 89.
he was in 89, but
was
with
in
these
89.
maps, they flip-flopped them all around. So here's the old one. I know it's black and white. Okay, I don't have
Yeah.
a fancy
Right.
printer, but this is the Palm Beach Island. This was 89, but now 89 has done a flippity flop and it's down here somewhere.
Huh.
It is okay. So 89 is now underneath the new 88. So
Right.
here's the new 88 in orange. 89 is right there, which is a pretty small area. This is the old 87, which David Silver's had.
Yeah.
And David Silver's terms out after this current cycle. So obviously, Mr. Caruso is not going to want that little plot of land. He's going to want the island. So
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, Angela, are you, you're muted and not on video, but you're logged in. So, you're unmuted. There you are. Hi.
Hi, hello, everybody. I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm just stepping out of a affordable housing meeting, and there's lots of the cleaning people are behind me. So I'm going to turn the camera off when I speak, but I just wanted to say hello to everybody. And thank you for inviting me to speak and share my perspective and that of some of my colleagues that I've talked to in regarding the race issues and the history that's not being allowed to get taught in our schools. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So Angela is what, 30 years now you've been
34. I am completing my 34th year in education.
Wow.
All in Palm Beach County. Yes. And I currently teach at Village Academy in Delray. I've been there for the last 24 years, and I am retiring this year. Giving it up.
It's had enough, and these new bills are
Horrific.
unbelievable.
Yes, very taxing. So yeah, I'm retiring this year. But in terms of, as I was asked to speak about a teacher's perspective, you know, I feel, and as I said, I've talked to a lot of colleagues, and as you can imagine, the buzz that's going on in our schools, that it's a disservice to education and to our children to make it illegal to teach our children accurate and complete history. You know, we're charged as educators with imparting knowledge and to the best of our ability to make sure that we're teaching true information to our students. And it just seems that, you know, the legislation is restricting what our children can learn in school. And I just think that's very harmful. We have people that are in arms about it. You know, parents, public parents are outraged. The teachers are afraid of losing their jobs, afraid of what they can and cannot say. So, you know, it's a very stressful situation. It puts you in a very stressful situation. and especially with new educators. You know, they're coming into the system, just starting out in their jobs, and they're afraid. They don't know what they can say and you know what I can't say, and it's very frustrating. And then the administrators too. You know, everybody's on edge, so it does not make for a great situation. And as you know, or may not, you know, children can read, you know, when you're stressed, or when you're feeling a certain way. Someone asking a question?
Can't hear her anymore.
Uh-oh.
The first leadership team here at Women's March. And I'm going to ask Allison or Jolisa to drop a link.
You gotta put them on mute.
So you
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, I'm sorry. All right, so as I said, it's like, you know, we teach our children to think critically, to be kind to each other. We have all of these policies and all of these programs in place, but when we don't want to teach them the accurate history, then we're saying that we don't trust the information that we're teaching them and the skills that we're teaching them to make good decisions in the future. And I guess that, you know, our legislators just feel that it's too ugly to talk about, but it's very damaging. We learn from our past so that we know how to go forward in the future. I know that in the African-American culture, there's a bird called Sankofa, and Sankofa is a bird that has his head turned backwards. He's looking back, and the verbiage that goes with that is that we look back so that we can prepare a way for our future. So we are to remember those things that happened in the past so that we don't repeat them, and so that we know how to see our way forward to a better future. And I think that just restricting the history as it is just, we're leaving gaps. You know, we've always had gaps. Some of the, I want to make sure I'm using the right terms. Some of our children with a lot of disparities, you know, they come to school already with gaps. So now as they move forward in their education, we're still having gaps. Students are not knowing, you know, who they are, don't know how they're connected to this history in America. And in my opinion, Black history in America is American history, and it should not be separate. So we're really causing, as I said, in my estimation as a 34-year veteran educator, we're really causing more confusion. We're causing bigger gaps, and a future that might be able to iron out some of these barriers and disparities. We're preventing that by leaving out, you know, the honest history. That's basically it. Anybody have any questions or comments that you want to make?
You know, it's funny, Angela, because I've been trying to write an article about this. You know, I was going to call it Florida Republican Party Celebrates Black History Month by banning the teaching of slavery, which they would, you know, like to do. And as you said, it does make people uncomfortable. It should. I mean, you know, teaching the Holocaust makes people uncomfortable. Teaching the genocide against the Native Americans should make them. It doesn't mean that you are responsible for what happened. I remember years ago when Ronald Reagan went to Bitburg, to some Nazi SS cemetery, and there was an uproar. The president of Germany at that time, it was a ceremonial post, not the chancellor, but von Weizsäcker was his name, gave this beautiful speech where he said, you know, you can't you can't hold people who were children or not even born at the time responsible for what happened. But then he said, we have left them a heavy legacy indeed, you know, and that's, I mean, that's how I feel, you know, but I was talking to a guy in my community who was a retired superintendent from up north, and he started out as a history teacher. We were talking about critical race theory, which isn't even taught, you know, and has people, you know, has these people up in arms. And you know, we were talking about the fact that it is in a way a loaded term. You know, it was easy for people, you know, for racists to seize on it and, you know, say that. And what he said is, you know, just teach facts. That's what you teach facts. That's, you know, but the irony is that when I was researching the article, I found out this has been in the education law since 2006. It's not something that they did recently. And there was an uproar at the time in 2006 when Jeb Bush was pushing it through. And it says American history shall be viewed as factual, not as constructed, shall be viewed as knowable, teachable, and testable, and shall be defined as the creation of a new nation based largely on the universal principles stated in the Declaration of Independence. So how do you teach slavery? You know, the most basic universal principle in the Declaration of Independence is this: all men are created equal. So how do you teach that America was a nation based on that principle, and then teach about slavery? You know, I mean, you have to either not teach slavery or ignore the fact that you're supposed to be talking about the Declaration of Independence. So and I think the law, doesn't the law, I think what they just passed allows people to sue, parents to sue if you know, you're, all right, I've said enough. David.
Yeah, well, what I always like to hear, you know, say when people talk about the Declaration of Independence is that it has no legal enforceableness at all. The Declaration of Independence is meaningless. It's the Constitution that has the laws. And you know, otherwise we would have the right to pursue happiness, which we do not have the right to do. So anyway.
Yeah, well, the Constitution pulled back from the Declaration. You know,
Well,
I
anyway.
mean, how do you teach that a slave counts as 3/5 of a person for, you know? But I am hoping that they have overreached, not only with this law, but with the other crazy stuff that they've done. And you know, in the midterms, everyone talks about, and it's true, the Democrats are not you know, they're busy pointing fingers. We're busy pointing fingers. You know, it's pointing fingers at Manchin and Sinema, pointing fingers, other people pointing fingers at the Progressive Caucus. And so all Biden did was recover 8 million of the 9.5 million jobs that Trump lost last year in a single year. And I mean, he's done all of these things, but people are not coming out to vote for what he did, and they're listening to the crap in the so-called liberal media about inflation and how Biden is a terrible president because of it. So what we need is something to get Democrats angry, and I think we have it in Florida. I mean, we have a pint-sized despot in DeSantis, and we need to motivate people to get out and and vote against him and vote against Rubio, vote against Scott, who turned down the money in the infrastructure bill and would have, if they had the final say, we wouldn't have, had all that money coming to Florida.
Michael,
Anyway.
can I say one thing?
June?
Really, really quick. Angela, you're here. Thank goodness you're talking about this. I think most of us have been enraged from the beginning. I just want to say really quickly, this is far more than just trying to erase Black history from our culture. This is the brainwashing of America.
Yeah.
And they presented a curriculum of ignorance. And of course, it's not just DeSantis. We can look to our friend, Mr. Corcoran, who is going around preaching about how we'll get back to family values. In other words, a white America that he sees. I don't know, we can't know time to discuss it, but I'm hoping and praying that our educators are finding some ways to fight back legally. I don't know what that might be, and the rest of us will help. But this is one of the greatest challenges I think we face. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions, Arlene?
Yeah, a few days ago, I was on a Democratic special meeting about school board meetings, and they've just been, I haven't been to one, but I've signed up to go. They have a very vocal, nasty, disrespectful group that come to promote this kind of whitewashing. And the Dems are, so we need to also kind of present ourselves and be able to speak to the issues to counter the noise and the disinformation that's going on at the school board meetings.
Yeah.
And what I heard at that meeting is that they took off the word out of the bill, uncomfortable. They put something else in that's meaningless. And they're saying you could say there was slavery. You're not allowed to show pictures of slaves or talk about their conditions. It is so frightening and so
Frightening.
awful.
It's frightening.
And we just have to keep acting every day that we can to counter this.
Remember their first proposal? The first proposal was to eliminate Martin Luther King Day from the curriculum, or from the schedule. So any crap about, well, we're just trying to present things that don't make kids uncomfortable. I'm sorry, I can't even talk.
Yeah, we every
like to
time I
say-
wake up, there's a challenge to some group that's being hurt.
And it is frightening for teachers. And as you say, they're tied with not really knowing what to say. You can say this, but you can't say that. And you have to be very, very careful. And, a lot of when you have to go outside the line, it's very subjective, and it's really weird at how some children will receive it and then what they go home and say. So the end result of that is they're not teaching at all because they don't know what to say and they are afraid.
And overall, it's a total violation of the Florida Constitution that says that every child will get the best possible education Florida can offer. So that's a total violation. As you mentioned, Angela, they're not teaching how to skills like critical thinking, analyzing, knowing how to have conversations with different ideas and beliefs, so that they're socialized to become the kind of alert and citizen that we would want to, when they become adults, age appropriate, of course.
Right.
And this is in total violation of the Florida Constitution.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You make a good point, though, about those school board meetings, and I just signed up for a rapid response team from the Democratic Executive Committee. They wanted people to, be available on short notice.
Yeah.
Is that what you were talking about, Arlene?
Yeah,
No.
were you on that meeting? I'm sorry, I was.
No. At the meeting last week, I told Mindy Koch that
Mindy,
I
yeah.
was going to join because
Sure, I was on it.
I remember, God, this goes back, to last year when they were arguing about white advantage and the school board was voting on it. And
Oh,
they
yeah, I
were,
remember that.
they were intimidated by all of these, thugs,
That's right, we're on the same
ignorant
meeting.
thugs.
That's the same thing I was speaking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go as
So.
well. And you push in a card and then you're able to speak.
Okay, Angela, you need to get back to your meeting there. So, thanks so much for coming. Next month, we're gonna, Karen Brill is gonna join us for, because I'm very curious, they are under, you're all under such pressure and attack. It's
Terrible.
yeah.
Okay, school board
Thanks.
member Karen Brewer. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Good night, everyone, thank you.
Okay, bye, Angela, thanks. Okay, and Arlene now,
Michael?
why don't we do the
I
voting?
just wanted, I wanted to make a comment.
Joy?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you, Joy. I can't see
Can
you.
you hear
Where
me?
are you, Joy?
Okay, all right.
She's down there, she's frozen.
I'm right here. I just wanted to make a comment. Election after election, they do attacks on that are so abhorrent to us that we can't help but fight the battle on a values message. So, for example, should we be teaching Black history in schools? Of course we should, right? But I'm just wondering if maybe we should couple our statement reaffirming the values with a bridge to an economic opportunity message, because I feel like that's where we're losing a lot of people. They see us as fighting these culture wars,
Right,
but that's not putting money in their bank account.
right. Well,
So,
and the
for
irony
example,
is
here's an
that
idea, something like so I just want to throw out a suggestion of what I'm talking about, just, for anybody to think about or whatever. The Republican Party wants to erase this Black history, the study of Black history in our schools. But what they really want to do, in addition, is to erase Black economic opportunity. So in other words, we speak to people at the same time as we're defending and making a statement on values, we speak to the lack of economic opportunity, which is what they do while we're busy fighting this huge emotional war on values. They're going along underneath and cutting off the economic opportunity for people.
Well,
Anyway,
and
just my thought.
not just Black people. I mean, what they're doing is they are getting people, hyped up with the culture wars and causing. I've been saying this for years. White, lower income Southerners have been voting against their economic interests since Richard Nixon introduced the Southern strategy and the Solid South went from Democrat to Republican. These people, but the thing is, and commentators say this all of the time, it doesn't really matter to them because they are so caught up in the culture wars. They are so full of resentment and then, and racism that they are willing to vote for people who are going to screw them economically because, at least they feel good about, the going back to the founding, long before the founding of the country. We had indentured servants who were largely white, and then we had slaves. And when they joined forces to fight against the landowners, what the landowners did is they took the white indentured servants aside and said, you're really better than those people. And they gave them a few things. They tossed them a few bones, and that's how they split them apart. They did that again in the late 19th century.
Michael, I want to add to what you just said, because if an indentured slave servant, a white person, ran away with a black slave, because that's what was happening, if they saw a path, a law got passed that if the slave got away and the white indentured servant got caught, he would have to pay for that slave running away. So they would continue to split coalitions that would help each other towards some type of freedom. And this began in 1607 with Jamestown. Joy, the racial wealth gap that you're speaking of is just
11 to 1.
Yeah, and it's intentional and brutal. I mean, did you know, like after World War II, when the GI plan came out for returning veterans from World War II, Blacks were excluded. The Black veterans that were fighting were not allowed to take advantage of the GI Bill. The redlining, if banks were going to give loans to Black people to start businesses or to get their feet on the ground, whatever the government can do to that bank, they did. This is, and it's still going on and on.
Right. No, I'm with you totally. I took that 2-day Racial Equity Institute course. You may, but well, I guess
I did too,
what I'm suggesting.
Yes.
Here, you guys, is not to go too much further down this road. This is just an example. I'm suggesting that we restate our values in the culture war, but don't get dragged down the rabbit hole of always making that our battle.
Yeah,
in other words,
I
we
agree.
restate it, but we bridge to economic opportunity,
Absolutely.
right? So we fight them on that territory.
You're right. Yeah, the distractions you could say everything, and as long as you don't have action behind it, as long as you don't have change. And you're so right. And I can see that as distracting, so that the economics and the kitchen tables issues are not advancing for the poorest of us in our country.
And that battle, J.D. Vance is a great example. When Hillbilly Elegy came out and he was popular and on TV, he was, I do think that he didn't say Democrats, but the programs are open to us that are, good. And then, of course, he got caught up with being a lapdog to Trump because he's running for office. And now it's the exact opposite. There's no reality there whatsoever. It's totally erased by hate and fear and the cultism. There's just no reality there. They don't even see what the Democrats have done to bring about economic opportunity.
So that's where I'm missing needs to come on. Okay, I guess I have the floor. Michael asked me to speak about SB 90 and the changes in our voting process as a result of that law, parts of which are in the courts right now, but I think, as Phil said a lot about what I was going to say. So some of it I'll repeat, but I want to add a couple of points as well. But I want to start off with two stories. One of my precinct voters called me about a month ago to say she received a letter that looked very legit from the supervisor of elections office to say that her signature no longer matched what they have on record. And she called me like, what is this? Unfortunately, I didn't ask her to give me the letter, but what I said to her, two things. One, right away, call the office. I always give the 6208 number and ask them to check your record, which she did. And they said, no, your record's fine. So this is a scam, one of the scams to deter voters from going to the polls. I don't know if you know Professor Robert Watson. He told me maybe about a week ago how friends of his are coming also, that they're saying different things about the information is not correct with the SOE. And so when Wendy was on the Zoom on Monday night and Michael was there, I told her about this and she didn't even know that this was happening. And, but she asked if she could see the envelope or get some evidence so she can follow through. So if you know of anyone that has received something like this, please get to me. Let me know so I can give Wendy evidence to work it on. She did say that letters were going out, as were proper, but then this was not. I mean, my precinct voter has voted in every election. She's very conscientious. That's why she called me right away when she had gotten this.
Arlene, let me just interject one thing about that. Back in 2004, I came down with election protection after the 2000 debacle here. And a guy in the office next to me went to Pennsylvania. And when we got back and Bush had won or stolen the election, he said to me, well, I delivered Pennsylvania. What about you? And I didn't have a good answer, but he went on to tell me that in Pennsylvania, he was out canvassing with a bunch of Teamsters. And they came across, they found out that there were Republicans in minority neighborhoods passing out leaflets saying that they didn't have to vote on Tuesday if they wanted. They could vote on Wednesday if they wanted to instead. And he told me that they found the Republicans and beat the shit out of them, the Teamsters. So I'm not advocating that, but it was very nice to hear that that had happened.
You know, in that year, I went to Germany and I deliberately booked my flight the day after election so I can vote. So I get off the plane and I go, who's my president? And then this whole thing unfolds. And here I am in Europe, listening to their reactions and seeing this craziness of my own country.
Yeah.
Bad memory. Okay, let me move on. My other story is another neighbor told me last week. She goes to on Saturdays to the farmer's market, and she goes regularly, and she stops by a booth that was doing voter registration to chat. 2 Saturdays ago, she went there, and one of the women was wearing a tee that said, "Socialism sucks." So she said, and she's a very gentle person, very non-confrontational. She says, why are you wearing, what does this mean? And they got into an argument. And so these are scams. Who knows how many people have registered at that booth that think that they are ready to vote that probably are not. So what is happening, well, anyway, to tie up these stories, Professor Watson and I, in September, we're going to put out a program about the scams and shenanigans that we need to look out for just before the big election in November. He's not free any day before September, so that's that. Okay, to SB 90, and those of you who know, if I'm misspeaking, please speak up. I'm not good at late hours. Okay, let's talk about the VBM, the voter registration form. This is what it looks like. If you and if you can't read it, you need a microscope. I mean, this is such a horrible form. But the point I want to make and underscore, it was mentioned a bit, is put down both your Florida license or ID card and your Social Security last 4 digits, so that there's no, and it's written there, and even in a tinier font, it's written right in there, requesting that you do this so that you don't get your request bounced. And the other point I want to make on this is when you re-up, when you request your next year, you have to do it after November 8th. If you do it before November 8th, your request ends on November 8th because it goes by cycle of elections. So when you re-up, which we all have to do, it has to be done after November 8th. Okay, so let's see. Let me get this up here. Where is that? Okay, and it was mentioned you can request your vote by mail, by phone, or in person at any of the 4 offices in the county. And, sorry, I have notes. Oh, here, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, so for voter registration, if you have a name and party affiliation change, it must be submitted on a full voter registration form. And I believe if it's the party affiliation, you have to do it 29 days before an election. If you want to vote in that election with a different party, you've got to submit this 29 days ahead. There's additional voter information required when updating your residential address. Let me see. Okay. Let me see on this vote by mail. Please, okay, I said that point. Oh, the other, now they vote by mail drop boxes. It's not called drop boxes anymore. They're calling it secure intake ballot stations. And they are going to be situated within the 150-foot zone of no solicitation. And these secure intake ballot stations will be staffed by someone from the supervisor of elections office by law. Just think of the money that's going out for this stuff.
Real.
And you can't go at any hour. It has to be during the hours that the offices are open. And as far as any assistance, like water or some comfort for the people that might be lined up to vote, we are not allowed to do it. The staff from the supervisor of elections office can go and tend to the needs of the people online. We are not allowed to do that. Let's see. Oh, when you're going to bring in ballots, you can bring in all the ballots from your family, from grandparent to grandchild. You can make a bunch of those vote by mail ballots to bring in, and you can only bring in 2 that are not related to you. And those of us that are precinct leaders and collect ballots, this applies to us. Now, Michael, help me on this, but I don't think Wendy was specific on that. What if we go in several times in a day?
No. I don't even think she addressed it. But the answer is, I mean, I told someone early on, no problem. I'll just take in 2, and then, an hour later, I'll take in another 2. No, it's the entire election. You can only take in 2 ballots.
How are they going to monitor that?
I don't know. I think that they actually have you sign something. I think that's what they're doing. I mean, which means that we're, the way around that is to use the mail. And of course, people are nervous about using the mail, but it worked very well last time. So, and you can check on it.
And this is to David's point too. Pre-COVID, the vote by mail, people that requested it voted 92%, from 80 to 92% of each elections. They so that's a good reason for it. And there's going to be 35 days prior to an election when you will receive your vote by mail ballot. And that gives enough time, if you know already, if sometimes you're wondering, you're not sure about which candidate you want to do on a particular race. But if you send it in well in time, the post office will do it. And then you can also track.
You track it, yeah.
Submission. You can track your vote by mail online and see when it was received, when it was register, looked at or whatever. So you can follow that through. And you can also call the supervisor of elections office to find out. But you're right about the point. I think that's a good point about it's an insurance. It's a backup because you can still go to the polls and vote manually if that's what you prefer. But then again, if we're in a hurricane or something going on, or something happens the day of voting or during early voting, whatever, you have that backup to return the vote by mail. Okay, is anyone here a 3PO? Are you authorized to run drives? Okay, because the laws have changed on that. Let me just tell you what it's like. And this one is, as Wendy mentioned, it's before the courts. And I like the judge Walker, that's going to look at this.
Oh, he's great.
He is.
Yeah.
But I'm with the League of Women Voters. I'm with the Democratic Party, so I'm authorized to run drives and such. But I got to show a disclosure. I don't have it right at my hand. That's virtually says, before you fill out your voter registration form here, know that this person may not bring your form in time. You may not really be registered to vote. Blah, blah, blah. Could you imagine that? So that's being contested right now. So what I always say is, at least for the League of Women Voters, we've been doing it over 100 years. Maybe I look like I've been doing it. And I promise you, your form will be turned into the Supervisor of Elections office. Well, any questions or any more points on this that need to be made?
No, thanks, Arlene. I mean, I think it's like a moving target right now because we don't know what is going to be upheld, and we don't. I mean, I think it's almost certain that Walker will find parts of it unconstitutional. He wrote a really wonderful opinion a few years ago before Amendment 4, right, where he struck down and he went through the record and he quoted Rick Scott saying with the clemency boards where they got to restore voting rights, where he said, we can do whatever we want. We can, and he asked some guy, what was your felony? Well, I voted illegally. Who did you vote for? Maybe I shouldn't ask that. Who did you vote for? And the guy said, well, actually, you, sir. And he got his rights restored. I mean,
but moreover, what Walker did at that time is he looked through the whole scheme because it was like a catch-22. If you have a case that was done in Palm Beach County, you'd have to call the county clerk here to find out if you owe any fines and fees. If the offense was in a different county, you have to call there. And
no, that's Hinkle. That's Hinkle on the Amendment 4. Oh, that was Hinkle that did that. Yeah. Sorry. No, but and his opinion was even better. Hinkle, the opening of his opinion just basically described how the system that they had set up to make people pay, and they didn't know how much people owed, and they didn't know, and they knew that they wouldn't know how much people owed until 2026. And that was the law that they had just passed. And but the problem with both of those judges is when it's appealed, you have an appellate court that Trump appointed 6 of the 12 justices to. Right. 6 of 12 are Trump appointees.
Another thing Hinkle did at that time was you can send a form to the state secretary of state, and if you don't hear, you don't get a response in 21 days, feel that you're eligible to vote.
That's right. Yeah, that's what he put in the opinion. You're right. That's right. And of course, he was he was reversed. And DeSantis just said one of the bills, I forget which one, that a court had, and I think that was Walker. But bottom line, he said, I'm confident it will be reversed on appeal. And I agree with him.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, I mean, they have the governor's seat, they have the Senate, they have the House, and they have the courts in Florida. So
With all of this heaviness, we can't stop. We have to keep doing whatever. I know when I worked for years on ending gun violence, and you know, you would think each one of these from Sandy Hook down in our modern times here would have been enough to do something, and it wasn't. But you have to think that it's always, we're putting a brick in the wall that's going to lead to some tipping point. And with our human behaviors, we don't know which tipping point is going to be, but you have to keep working towards that. And please don't stop.
Absolutely.
I think that's, if there are no more questions or comments, I think that's a great note to end on. You know, we have to, you know, what was it, Beckett, in one of his books, I can't go on, I must go on. No, I must go on, I can't go on, I'll go on. You know,
let me just add one more sentence. Many years ago, I was at a conference on experiential education. There was a wonderful professor. This is in the early 80s when multiculturalism was big, and she's Black. And she said, when you're dancing with the bear and you get tired, do you stop? And you know, and I want to add something to that because of the kind of people I work with, and to say, when you're tired, you can support each other till you get refreshed again. We have people we can take care of ourselves, take care of them, and never keep the goal static.
Okay, so next month, we've lost a lot of people, but people will be hearing anyway. Next month, we're going to have Annette Tadeo on as the featured guest. And then also Karen Brill from the Palm Beach County School Board, who's also a great speaker. So thanks all for coming, and
Thank you.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Okay, David, do the countdown.